The night air hung heavy with secrets as two figures moved through the darkness, their small feet barely making a sound on the dusty path. They weren't running from danger, they were danger itself, at least in the eyes of those who would discover what they truly were. Twin sisters, dressed in oversized shirts and shorts meant for boys, their hair cropped close to their scalps, walked with their heads down, carrying the weight of a lie that had defined their entire existence. Listen, the narrator's voice cuts through, intimate and urgent. Let me tell you a story about twin sisters who never lived as girls for even a single day. Not because they didn't want to. Not because they chose this life. But because in the world they were born into, being female was a curse worse than death itself. This is their story. And I promise you, it will change the way you see everything. The compound of Chief Folarin Olenai stood like a fortress in Obadra village, its high walls a symbol of wealth and power that stretched back generations. Inside those walls, tradition ruled with an iron fist, and none was more brutal than the one whispered about in hushed tones, the curse of daughters. Amina sat on the edge of her bed, her hands trembling as she placed them on her swollen belly. 7 months pregnant, and the fear hadn't left her eyes since the day she'd confirmed the pregnancy. Her sister, Sewa, sat beside her, holding her hand. "What if it's a girl?" Amina whispered, tears already forming. Sewa squeezed her hand tighter. "Don't think like that. We'll pray. We'll hope. Hope." Amina's voice cracked. "You've seen what happens in this family, Sewa. Uncle Goege gave away 4 daughters. 4 beautiful babies, handed to strangers like unwanted gifts. He sits alone now in that big house, surrounded by emptiness, mourning children he threw away with his own hands. Folarin is not his brother," Sewa said, but even she didn't sound convinced. Amina turned to face her sister, eyes red and desperate. "Folarin is exactly like his brother. He's just been lucky enough not to have been tested yet. Every night I pray, I beg God, please, let it be a boy. Please, just one boy." 2 months later, on a night when Chief Folarin was away attending to business in Lagos, Amina's prayers seemed to go unanswered in the cruelest way possible. The labor came fast and hard, ripping through her body with violent intensity. Sewa, trained as a midwife in the city before returning to the village, worked with practiced efficiency, but her face grew paler with each passing minute. "Push, Amina. One more." The first cry pierced the night. A baby. Healthy. Loud. Sewa's hands moved quickly, cutting the cord, cleaning the tiny body. Her face went white. "What is it?" Amina gasped, exhausted. "Is it a girl?" Sewa whispered. The silence that followed was deafening. "No," Amina breathed. "No, no, no." "Wait," Sewa said suddenly. "Amina, you're still contracting. There's another one." 10 minutes later, a second cry joined the first. Sewa stood frozen, holding 2 babies, her mind racing faster than her heart. "Amina," she said slowly. "They are both girls. You have twin daughters." Amina's scream of anguish echoed through the compound. The servants, kept away as instructed, whispered nervously outside the door. Inside, the 2 sisters stared at each other across 2 crying babies, both knowing exactly what this meant. Death. Disgrace. Exile. The end of everything. "He'll kill me," Amina sobbed. "Or worse, he'll take them away. My babies, Sewa. My beautiful babies." Sewa paced the room, her mind working frantically. The babies continued to cry, oblivious to the crisis their existence had created. Minutes passed. Then, slowly, Sewa's expression changed. "What if he never knew?" she said quietly. Amina looked up. "What? What if he never knew they were girls?" Sewa moved closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Amina, listen to me. Nobody else was here tonight. Just us. The babies, they're identical. We could tell everyone they're boys. That's insane, Amina whispered, but her eyes were already calculating, already hoping. Is it? Is it more insane than letting your husband throw away your children? Than living the rest of your life knowing you stood by and let it happen? Amina stared at her babies, at their tiny perfect faces, their small fists waving in the air. Something fierce and primal rose in her chest, a mother's love, raw and unstoppable. How? She asked. We keep them isolated. We say they are sickly, that they need to stay away from people. We cut their hair short, dress them as boys, teach them to walk and talk like boys. We do whatever it takes to keep them alive. For how long? Forever. For as long as we have to, Sewa said firmly. Until we find another way. Until something changes. But right now, tonight, we make a choice. Do we protect them, or do we let tradition destroy them? Amina reached for her babies, pulling them both to her chest. Tears streamed down her face as she kissed their foreheads, their cheeks, their tiny hands. Tobi and Tolu, she whispered. Greatness and honor. That's what you'll be called. And you will live. I swear on everything I am, you will live. When Chief Folktale returned 3 days later, he found his household in celebration. His wife had given birth to twin boys. Strong, healthy, perfect sons to carry on the Oleniai name. He held them awkwardly, unused to babies, but his chest swelled with pride. Finally, he said, grinning broadly. Finally, the gods have blessed this house properly. Amina smiled, but her heart was breaking. Beside her, Sewa kept her face carefully neutral. The lie had begun, and there would be no going back. The years that followed were a masterclass in deception and constant fear. Tobi and Tolu grew up in a cage made of love and terror, their childhood a performance that could never end. By age 5, they knew never to cry too much, never to show interest in dolls or dresses, never to let their voices rise too high. Amina cut their hair herself every 2 weeks, keeping it shorter than any boys in the village. She taught them to sit with their legs apart, to spit when they talked, to roughhouse and play fight. Why can't we go outside like other children? 6-year-old Tolu asked one day, pressing her face against the window. Amina knelt beside her, cupping her face gently. Because you're special, my love. And special children need special protection. I don't want to be special, Tobi said from the corner, her voice small. I want to be normal. Normal isn't always safe, Sewa said quietly, entering the room. And safe is what keeps you alive. But the children were brilliant, too brilliant to be hidden forever. By age 8, they were reading books meant for teenagers. By age 10, they were solving mathematics problems that baffled their tutors. Chief Folktale, initially pleased, began to grow suspicious of why his sons never played with other boys, never attended village gatherings, never seemed interested in anything beyond books and learning. They are weak, he complained to Amina one evening. Soft. Like girls. Amina's blood ran cold, but she kept her voice steady. They are intelligent, Folktale. Brilliant minds are often quiet ones. Brilliant won't help them lead this family. They need to be strong, respected, feared. Then let them prove themselves, Amina said, a plan forming desperately in her mind. Send them to school. Let them show you what they can do. Chief Folktale considered this. Boarding school. St. Benedict's Boys' Academy. That will make men of them. Amina's heart sank, but she nodded. It was either that or have him discover the truth here at home. At 12 years old, Tobi and Tolu entered St. Benedict's Boys' Academy, and their real nightmare began. The dormitory was their first challenge. 20 boys sleeping in one large room, sharing bathrooms, changing clothes openly. That first night, the twins lay in their beds, paralyzed with fear. We can't do this, Tobi whispered in the darkness. Someone will see. We have no choice, Tolu whispered back. We wake up earlier than everyone. We bathe before dawn. We change in the bathroom stalls. We make it work, or we die. Those are options. And somehow, impossibly, they made it work. They woke at 4:30 every morning, bathing in the dark while others slept. They wore tight wraps around their developing chest, ignoring the pain and discomfort. They perfected the art of changing clothes in seconds, of always having an excuse to skip communal showers, of being simultaneously invisible and excellent. Because that was their other shield, they excelled at everything. Top of their class in every subject, respectful to teachers, helpful to struggling classmates. They became untouchable through achievement, so valued that small oddities were overlooked. Tobi, you're so smart, a classmate named Deo said one afternoon. Why don't you ever play football with us? Asthma, Tobi lied smoothly, a story they'd rehearsed 100 times. My lungs are weak. I have to be careful. That's why we study so hard, Tolu added, appearing beside her sister. If we can't be athletes, we'll be scholars. It was plausible enough that no one questioned it. But the close calls continued. A fight in the dormitory where someone grabbed Tobi's shirt and nearly tore it. A mandatory medical examination that they barely escaped by hiding in a locked bathroom until it was over, later claiming they'd been too sick to attend. Each day was a tightrope walk over an abyss. By 17, they had grown into remarkable young people, intelligent, kind, admired by everyone who knew them. They had also grown into women, their bodies betraying them at every turn despite their best efforts to hide it. Girls at the neighboring school wrote them love letters. Tobi is so gentle and understanding, one letter read. Not like other boys. He really listens. The twins read these letters in private and cried, not from happiness, but from the crushing weight of a life they could never live. I don't even know who I am anymore, Tolu said one night, sitting on her bed in the dormitory, her voice barely audible. Are we girls pretending to be boys? Or have we become boys entirely? What happens to the people we were supposed to be? Tobi reached across the narrow gap between their beds and took her sister's hand. We are survivors, Tolu. That's who we are. We are two girls who refuse to die. Maybe that's enough. Is it? Is survivor really living? Neither of them had an answer. Then, just months before their 18th birthday, Chief Folarin made an announcement that would force everything into the light. My sons, he declared at a family dinner, his voice booming with pride and authority. In 3 months, you will undergo the sacred manhood ceremony. 3 days and 3 nights in the forest with the elders, learning the ancient rites of our people. You will emerge as men, ready to lead this family into the future. The room erupted in celebration. Amina's fork clattered to her plate, her face draining of color. Across the table, Selwa's eyes went wide with horror. The twins sat frozen, their minds unable to process what they'd just heard. A 3-day ritual. In the forest. With elder men. There would be ceremonies, tests, traditional preparations that would expose every secret they'd spent 18 years protecting. Later that night, Amina pulled Selwa aside, her whole body shaking. We have to tell him. There's no other choice. The ceremony will reveal everything, and if he finds out that way, he'll kill them, Selwa finished. Or worse. You're right. We have to control how he finds out. How do we tell a man like Folarin that his sons, his pride, his legacy, are actually the daughters he would have thrown away? We tell him the truth, Selwa said firmly. And we pray he's changed. That 18 years of loving them has made him different. And if it hasn't? Silence. 1 week before the scheduled ceremony, Amina gathered her courage and called a family meeting. Chief Folarin sat in his chair, confused by the somber atmosphere. The twins stood together, holding hands, their faces pale but determined. Selwa stood by the door, ready for whatever came next. Folarin, Amina began, her voice trembling but clear. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you 18 years ago. What is this about? He demanded, annoyance creeping into his voice. Amina took a deep breath. The night I gave birth, the night you were in Lagos, I didn't give birth to boys. The room went completely still. What did you say? His voice was dangerously quiet. I gave birth to girls, Folarin. Twin daughters. Everything since then has been a lie to protect them. To keep them alive. For a moment, nothing happened. Chief Folarin sat motionless, his face unreadable. Then, slowly, understanding dawned, and with it came fury like nothing they'd ever seen. He shot to his feet, his chair crashing backward. You did what? He roared. You made a fool of me. You let me believe, you let everyone believe. His voice broke, not from sadness but from rage. I celebrated. I thanked the gods. I told everyone I finally had sons. We only wanted to live, Tobi said suddenly, her voice steady despite her tears. We didn't choose this, father. We were born, and we wanted to exist. Is that so wrong? Don't call me father, he shouted, his face twisted with disgust and betrayal. You're not my sons. You're nothing. 18 years of lies. 18 years of deception. 18 years of your daughters loving you, Tolu added quietly. 18 years of trying to make you proud. We did everything right, father. Everything except choose our gender. Get out, he said. His voice dropping to a little whisper. All of you. Get out of my house. Tonight. Now. I want you gone before sunrise. Folarin, please, Amina begged, moving toward him. Don't touch me. He backed away from her as if she carried disease. You betrayed me. You disgraced me. You made me love. He couldn't even finish the sentence. Get out. Take those things with you and leave. You're all dead to me. They packed in silence, moving like ghosts through the house they'd called home. The servants watched from shadows, whispering, spreading the news through the compound like wildfire. The twins took only their school certificates and a few clothes. Amina took her jewelry and whatever money she could gather. Selwa helped them load everything into her small car. As they drove away, Tobi looked back at the compound one last time. We tried so hard to make him love us, she whispered. He did love us, Tolu said, tears streaming down her face. He just loved the lie more than the truth. They moved to Lagos, squeezed into Selwa's tiny apartment. The twins enrolled in a girls' school under their real identities for the first time in their lives. Everything was strange, wearing skirts, being called she, learning to navigate a world they'd only observed from the outside. How do you walk in this? Tobi asked, wobbling in the school's required shoes. A classmate laughed, not unkindly. Girl, we've all been there. You learn. Girl. The word felt foreign and familiar at once. But not everyone had abandoned them. 3 months after their exile, Uncle Boyega appeared at Selwa's door, his face haggard and aged beyond his years. May I come in? He asked quietly. They sat in the small living room, the old man's hands shaking as he looked at his nieces, seeing them truly for the first time. I gave away 4 daughters, he said, his voice breaking. 4 beautiful babies. I held each one for just a moment before handing them to strangers. I told myself I was following tradition, honoring our ancestors, protecting our family name. He looked up, tears streaming down his weathered face. I was a coward. And now I'm old and alone, and those daughters, wherever they are, don't even know my name. Uncle Goega, Amina started. No, let me finish. When I heard what you'd done, Amina, my first thought was anger. How dare you deceive the family? But then I thought about it. Really thought about it. You did what I was too weak to do. You chose your children over tradition. You chose love over fear. He turned to the twins. And you too, you survived. Against everything, you survived and excelled. You're brilliant, kind, strong young women. What a waste it would have been if you'd been thrown away like my daughters were. Why are you here, uncle? Tolu asked gently. To apologize. And to tell you that I'm going to talk to your father. I'm going to make him see what I finally see, that we've been wrong. That this tradition has destroyed our family, and it needs to end. He won't listen, Tobi said. He hates us. Then I'll make him listen, Uncle Boyega said firmly. Even if it takes the rest of my days. Back in Obadra village, Chief Folarin sat alone in his massive house, surrounded by silence. The servants moved quietly, avoiding him. Friends visited less and less, uncomfortable with the scandal that had rocked the community. He spent his days in his study, staring at the walls covered with awards and certificates. Best students in mathematics, Tobi and Tolu Oleniai. Science competition winners, Tobi and Tolu Oleniai. Debate champions, Tobi and Tolu Oleniai. Every achievement, every moment of pride he'd felt watching his sons succeed. All of it had been real. Their intelligence, their kindness, their respect for him, all real. Only their gender had been hidden. One night, drunk on palm wine and regret, he put down a photograph from the wall. It showed him standing between his two children at their 15th birthday. They were smiling up at him with such love, such genuine affection. I loved you, he whispered to the photograph. God help me, I loved you. Uncle Boyega found him like that, crying in his study, surrounded by memories. They were always yours, Folarin, the old man said gently, sitting down beside his brother. Girl or boy, they were always your children. And they loved you so much that they lived a lie every single day just to stay close to you. I can't face them, Folarin whispered. How can I face them after what I said? What I did? The same way I'm facing them, with honesty, humility, and hope that love can overcome pride. It took 2 more months of Uncle Boyega's persistent visits and quiet counsel, but eventually, Chief Folarin made the journey to Lagos. Amina opened the door and nearly fainted. Sewa stepped protectively in front of the twins, who stood together in the narrow hallway, their faces carefully blank. I came to, Folarin's voice failed him. He looked at his daughters properly for the first time, seeing them as they truly were, young women, beautiful and dignified, wearing dresses and letting their hair grow. Still the same eyes that had looked up at him for 18 years. Still the same souls he'd claimed to love. He fell to his knees. Forgive me, he choked out. Please, forgive me. I've been a blind man, a foolish man. I let tradition make me throw away the greatest gift I've ever received. You were blessings, you are blessings, and I was too proud and too stupid to see it. The twins didn't move. The years of hiding, of fear, of rejection, it had all left scars too deep for easy healing. How do we know you mean it? Tobi asked quietly. How do we know you won't change your mind tomorrow? You don't, Folarin admitted. But I'm asking for the chance to prove it. Every day, for the rest of my life if necessary. I want to be your father, your real father. Not the father of the lie, but the father of the truth. Tolu looked at her sister. A lifetime of silent communication passed between them. Then, slowly, they moved forward. We are not your sons, Tolu said firmly. We are your daughters. And we always were. I know, Folarin whispered. And I'm proud of you. So incredibly proud. The reunion was tearful and complicated and messy, but it was real. 2 weeks later, Chief Folarin called a meeting of the entire Oleniai family and clan elders. Rumors had already spread throughout the village, twisted and exaggerated with each retelling. The compound was packed with people curious to hear what would be said. Folarin stood before them all, his daughters on either side of him, Amina and Sewa behind them. I have gathered you here today to end a tradition that has poisoned our family for generations, he announced. The practice of rejecting daughters, of treating them as curses, of throwing them away like garbage, it ends today. It ends with me. Murmuring rippled through the crowd. Some elders stood to protest. You cannot change what has always been, one shouted. Watch me, Folarin said firmly. These are my daughters. Tobi and Tolu Oleniai. They are brilliant, accomplished, and more valuable to this family than 100 sons who achieve nothing. From this day forward, no child in the Oleniai family will ever be rejected because of gender. Any man who tries will answer to me. The ancestors, another elder began. The ancestors would be ashamed of us. Uncle Boega interrupted, standing beside his brother. I know because I live with that shame every day. I threw away 4 daughters, and now I have nothing. No one to carry on my name, no one to care for me in my old age, no one to remember me when I'm gone. That is my punishment, and I deserve it. But these girls, he gestured to the twins, they deserve better. They all deserve better. The meeting dissolved into heated debate, but the younger generation was already shifting, already questioning. Seeds of change had been planted. The twins returned to school, and for the first time in their lives, they began to discover who they actually were beneath the layers of deception. It was awkward and often funny. How do you put on makeup? Tobi asked a classmate, staring at the small tubes and brushes like they were alien technology. Girl, you're 18 and you've never worn makeup. Long story, Tolu said, laughing despite herself. They learned to braid hair, to walk in heels without falling, to navigate the complex social dynamics of female friendship. They made mistakes constantly, but for the first time, they were learning to be themselves. When university admission results came out, both twins received full scholarships to study medicine at the University of Ibadan. Chief Folarin threw them a celebration, inviting everyone in the village. This time, there were no lies, no secrets, just a father proud of his daughters. I want to save lives, Tobi said during her speech at the celebration. I want to help people the way Aunt Sewa helped us. Medicine chose us, I think, because we know what it means to fight for life. Every day we lived was a battle, Tolu added. Every breath we took was an act of defiance against a world that said we shouldn't exist. But we did exist. We do exist. And we are going to make sure every child, every person we touch, knows they have the right to exist exactly as they are. The applause was thunderous. Later that evening, as the celebrations wound down, Amina found her daughters sitting together on the veranda, watching the sunset. What are you thinking about? She asked, sitting between them. Everything, Tobi said. 18 years of hiding. 18 years of fear. Was it worth it? Amina asked quietly. If you could go back, knowing everything you'd endure, would you want me to make the same choice? The twins looked at each other, then at their mother. Yes, Tolu said firmly. Because we are alive. We are here. We are free. And maybe, just maybe, we changed something. Maybe the next girl born into this family won't have to hide who she is. Maybe we turned our curse into a blessing, Tobi added, smiling. Amina pulled them both close, tears streaming down her face. You were always the blessing. Always. 18 years they had lived in shadows, wearing masks, hiding their true self from a world that refused to see them as valuable. 18 years of fear, of constant vigilance, of wondering if each day would be the day their secret was discovered and they lost everything. But from those shadows rose 2 extraordinary young women, survivors, scholars, future doctors who would save lives and challenge conventions. The girls who were never supposed to exist were now standing in the light, refusing to be invisible anymore. Their story spread beyond Obadra village, beyond their family, carried by word of mouth and whispered conversations. Other families began questioning the old ways. Other mothers began fighting to protect their daughters. The change was slow, painful, imperfect, but it was change nonetheless. And it started with two sisters who simply refused to die. If this story moved you, if it made you think about the courage it takes to simply exist in a world that says you shouldn't, then help us share it. Hit that subscribe button so more stories like this can be told. Leave a comment sharing your thoughts, we read every single one. And like this video so YouTube knows these are the kinds of stories that matter. Because somewhere out there, another person is living in shadows, hiding who they are, wondering if they'll ever be free to exist as themselves. Your engagement helps their story get told too. This is Story Vault TV, where every story matters, and every voice deserves to be heard. Until next time, remember, the bravest thing you can do is simply be yourself, even when the world says you shouldn't.